In the bustling heart of Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, a seemingly ordinary travel day sets the stage for an unforgettable showdown. Maya Brooks, a poised, intelligent black woman, stands at the check-in counter ready for a routine flight. Little does she know her every move is being watched by an overzealous airport cop with a colossal chip on his shoulder. Beneath the fluorescent lights, suspicions turn to confrontation, racial undertones seen in his pointed questions and glaring stares. Unbeknownst to him, Maya's no ordinary passenger, she's a high-ranking FBI agent. What begins as a case of pure prejudice soon escalates into a cataclysmic turning point, triggering staggering consequences. Maya Brooks woke at dawn to a crisp, cloudless sky bathing her home in warm orange light. She padded into her kitchen, still in slippers, and switched on the coffee maker. The quiet hum of the machine soothed her nerves because a part of her always danced on edge before traveling. As an FBI assistant director, she was no stranger to cross-country flights, frequent last-minute missions, and the indefinite swirl of tension that came with high-stakes investigations. Yet, she cultivated a morning ritual of calm: the coffee aroma, the 10-minute journal session, the softly playing jazz music from her phone. Today's flight was for an official FBI conference in Washington, D.C., focusing on emerging threats to national security. Maya's job demanded meticulous organization. She double-checked her itinerary for the 100th time: flight number, seat assignment, gate location, and schedule for the next 48 hours. Important meetings with departmental heads awaited her in D.C. Although she hated traveling under tension, the mission itself exhilarated her. Coordinating law enforcement agencies to tackle new challenges wasn't just her duty, it was her calling. She quietly zipped her suitcase, careful not to wake her elderly mother upstairs. After her father's passing, she had taken her in, grateful for the values her parents instilled: dignity, confidence, humility. Backing out of the driveway, coffee in hand, she reminded herself how quickly peace can shatter. One moment, life was calm. The next, a hateful act could change everything. Still, she felt prepared, trained, confident. As she drove through Atlanta's morning traffic, the bright skyline and upbeat music brought a rare sense of calm. She didn't know that inside the airport, she'd face a harsh reminder: no title, no rank could shield her from prejudice. Meanwhile, Officer Kyle Mercer started his day at the airport, badge on chest and bitterness in tow. Some called him strict, others saw him for what he was: short-tempered, power-hungry, and quietly cruel. Reprimands littered his record, but short staffing kept him employed. He hid behind protocol, targeting travelers who looked different or questioned his authority. He prided himself on confrontation. Suspicion was his default. And today, when a confident black woman approached his checkpoint, he saw a challenge. What he didn't see was that this encounter would become the beginning of his downfall, a moment that would echo through the halls of Hartsfield-Jackson for years to come. Maya moved through the check-in line with ease, greeting staff with a warm smile. Raised to treat everyone with respect, she placed her items onto the security belt: laptop, shoes, phone, moving with calm precision. But then she noticed him. Officer Kyle Mercer stood nearby, arms folded, eyes fixed on her. While others were being waved through, his stare lingered, cold, confrontational. Maya tried not to jump to conclusions. She'd seen stern officers before, but this felt different. As she pushed her bin forward, Kyle stepped in. "Ma'am, is this your bag?" "Yes, officer," she replied evenly. He looked her over. "And your ID?" She handed him her license. "Where are you headed?" "Washington, D.C. for work." "Work?" he repeated skeptically. "What kind?" She paused. "I'm a federal employee." He handed back her ID and said, "Step aside after the metal detector. I'll need to ask more questions." Though eerie crossed D, she complied. The feeling in her gut said this wasn't routine. As she cleared security, memories surfaced: being followed, pulled over, dismissed. Prejudice wasn't new. Kyle led her to a side desk, away from others. "Why are you going to D.C.?" he asked. "I have meetings at the J. Edgar Hoover building," she replied, then calmly revealed her FBI credentials. Kyle barely glanced at it. "This could be fake. That's a real badge." "Call the bureau if needed," she said. Instead, he walked off to run a background check. Maya sat alone, jaw tight. Her flight boarded in 30 minutes. She stayed composed, recalling her mother's advice, never let them shake you. Eventually, he returned with Sergeant Cruz, who confirmed she was in the system but claimed her badge looked off. Maya stood. You've verified me. If you think I'm a threat, call the FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility. I'll do it for you. Otherwise, I'd like to catch my flight. A small crowd gathered as tension rose. Kyle looked eerie, crossed by Maya's calm, while Sergeant Cruz stood uneasy. We can't just let anyone claiming to be FBI through, Kyle said. People can buy badges online. Maya held her frustration. Then follow protocol. Call the bureau. You'll see I'm authorized. But we need to move quickly. Kyle glared. Fine. We'll see who you really are, then walked off to make the call. Cruz signaled her to stay calm as the crowd dispersed. Maya, now anxious about missing her flight, rubbed her temples. Though tempted to call someone at the FBI or TSA, she decided to let the process play out. Cruz offered a quiet apology. Officer Mercer is thorough. How long will it take? She asked. Depends who picks up, he said. I'll try to speed it up. Just then, a woman in her 20s stepped in. Is everything okay? I'm just being held for ID verification, Maya said. I saw it happen. We're both flying to DC. Want me to talk to the airline? Maya nodded gratefully. Please. I might be late. I'm Tiana Blake. I'll let them know. She smiled and walked off. Back at the metal desk, Maya sat down, relieved but still tense. Cruz made calls. Time dragged. She wondered if Kyle was really verifying her or just stalling. Either way, this felt like more than a check. It felt like punishment. Inside an office, Kyle finally connected to the FBI. We have a Miss Maya Brooks, claiming to be an assistant director. Need to confirm. He gave her info and waited, annoyed that she hadn't cracked. When the operator returned, the answer was clear. She's verified. Please extend all courtesies. Kyle clenched his jaw. No fraud, no excuse. Just his own prejudice exposed. Still, instead of admitting fault, he chose to keep pushing. He returned to the checkpoint. Maya was still waiting, calm but clearly eerie. Cross D. We verified your status, he said coldly. But I'll still need to ask more questions. No apology. No acknowledgement, just ego. Maya's eyes widened, not with anger but disbelief. Officer Mercer, I've given you everything, my ID, my travel details. You confirmed with the FBI. My flight is boarding. Standard procedure, Kyle insisted, ignoring Sergeant Cruz's confused look. If you're in such a hurry, you should have planned more time for security. Maya's patience was running thin, though she stayed composed. This wasn't about protocol anymore, it felt personal. She looked to Cruz, hoping he might step in, but he avoided her gaze. Then, a voice interrupted, Is there a problem? Tiana, the traveler from earlier, had returned, this time with a Delta Gate agent named George Davis. This passenger is at risk of missing her flight. Is security holding her up? George asked. Maya exhaled, relieved. The atmosphere shifted. Now Kyle had to either justify detaining her or let her go. We're just finishing up, Kyle muttered. George pointed to Maya's boarding pass. We're about to close the gate. If she's cleared, we'd like to get her on the flight. Tension filled the silence, but with the FBI having verified her and the gate agent waiting, Kyle finally relented. Fine, he said coldly. You're clear to go, Miss Brooks? He offered no apology. Maya gave him a calm nod and replied, I'll remember this, Officer Mercer. Her words were quiet but firm. Then she turned and walked away. Kyle felt a strange unease. He didn't yet realize how serious her warning was. He had targeted the wrong woman. Maya rushed through the terminal, thanked George and Tiana again, and boarded just before the gate closed. Her heart still raced as she sat down, adrenaline from the confrontation lingering. As the plane took off, she thought about everything that had happened. Kyle's behavior hadn't been about safety, it was personal and rooted in bias. Even after the FBI confirmed her status, he had treated her with hostility. From a few rows ahead, Tiana gave her a reassuring wave. Maya smiled back, grateful for a small moment of kindness. Outside the window, Atlanta faded below. She turned her thoughts to the work waiting in D.C. Briefings, strategy meetings, important initiatives. Usually it energized her, but now a heaviness lingered. Kyle's racism had reopened old wounds she had worked hard to heal. As the plane reached cruising altitude, Maya's phone buzzed. A message from FBI colleague Monica Hall read, "Just got a weird call from airport security asking about you. Everything okay?" Maya sighed, recalling the ordeal, then texted back a quick summary. Monica's response came fast. "That's outrageous. You should file a formal complaint. Let me know if you need me as a witness." Maya felt a sense of control returning as she drafted an email to the airport's internal affairs department. She outlined the harassment, delays, and Kyle's refusal to acknowledge her verified credentials, including the racial undertones that tainted the encounter. She didn't send it yet. She wanted to review it later, but even writing it felt like reclaiming her dignity. By the time her plane landed in Washington, D.C., her focus shifted to the important meetings ahead. But she couldn't shake the sense that the confrontation wasn't over. Officers like Kyle Mercer rarely faced consequences, but she wasn't just any traveler. She had influence, resources, and a duty to act. At FBI headquarters, she joined high-level briefings, offering expert insight. But part of her mind kept returning to the airport incident. After the meeting, her superior, Deputy Director Cross, invited her into his office. He had already heard what happened. "You handling it okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," she replied, "but this can't slide. I'm drafting a formal complaint." Cross agreed. "Do you have witnesses?" She nodded. Tiana, the gate agent, and Sergeant Cruz had all seen parts of it. "I'll help if you choose to escalate," Cross offered. "But the decision is yours." "I want to file it," she said. "For me and for those without the rank or voice to push back." "That's the right attitude," Cross said. "Keep me updated." As she left, Maya felt renewed purpose. No one complaint could fix systemic bias, but change started with speaking up. She was tired of being doubted because of her skin color. If Officer Mercer thought she'd stay silent, he was wrong. 3 days later, back in Atlanta, airport management received a formal complaint co-signed by Deputy Director Cross and Maya Brooks. It detailed Mercer's unprofessional conduct, unjustified detention, and suspected racial bias. Dana Russo, head of internal affairs, read the complaint carefully. She'd seen Mercer's name before previous complaints had come and gone. But this was different. This came from someone with power, and it demanded real attention. The FBI complaint gave the case serious weight. Dana Russo, head of internal affairs, knew Kyle was difficult, always pushing limits without technically breaking rules. But this time, under FBI scrutiny, ignoring it could spark a scandal. She ordered a full investigation and told her deputy, Benjamin Lee, "We need to take this seriously. These are major allegations." Soon, Kyle Mercer received the formal notice. In the break room, his face hardened as he read he was being investigated for racial discrimination, misconduct, and harassment of a verified FBI official. Furious, he stormed to his supervisor's office, expecting support, but instead, he was told to cooperate with the external review and stay calm. For weeks, internal affairs dug deep. They reviewed footage, logs, and interviewed witnesses, including Sergeant Cruz, TN-11, and airline agent George Davis. All described Kyle's aggressive behavior and how he ignored protocol even after confirming Maya's identity. The investigation uncovered a disturbing trend. Kyle had disproportionately targeted travelers of color. Written complaints matched Maya's experience, and even a colleague admitted Kyle had a bias, though he feared speaking up until now. Dana compiled the evidence into a report. It revealed years of abuse hidden under a badge and a system that failed to act. On the day of Kyle's disciplinary hearing, he appeared grim. A panel of airport officials, legal advisors, and internal affairs read the charges: misconduct, harassment, racial bias, and insubordination. Maya wasn't there, but her written crossment was. She described Kyle's behavior from the moment he singled her out to his refusal to after verifying her FBI credentials. His actions were clearly racially motivated, she wrote. Kyle denied it all, claiming he followed protocol. But witness testimony and footage showed otherwise, how he let others pass with minimal checks while interrogating Maya. Dana then presented years of records showing he had flagged minority travelers at much higher rates. The evidence was undeniable. After deliberation, the panel announced its decision. Kyle Mercer was to be terminated immediately for Georgi's misconduct. The panel ruled it was misconduct and recommended the district attorney review the case for civil rights violations. The once confident officer slumped in his chair, pale-faced. He tried to protest, but security escorted him out. His badge was revoked, and he was banned from the airport. That day ended with a public crossment confirming his termination. Inside the airport, staff whispered, some relieved, others uneasy, but all knew this was a turning point. Kyle Mercer's fall was fast and public, sending a clear message: prejudice in uniform would no longer be ignored. In the weeks after, news of Kyle's firing spread quickly. Former allies distanced themselves, and local media jumped on the story. Headlines like "Airport Cop Fired After Racial Profiling," FBI Official stirred intense debate online and in the news. Kyle became unemployable. Background checks revealed his dismissal for discrimination. Job offers vanished. Friends turned away. He withdrew into isolation. Blinds closed, reputation shattered. Meanwhile, Maya returned to her high-paced work at the FBI, leading key initiatives across agencies. Occasionally, strangers reached out, thankful for her courage. A mother from Chicago wrongly profiled. A college student in Georgia, scared during a security stop. Each message reminded Maya her case wasn't isolated. It gave voice to countless others silently enduring injustice. At Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, changes began. Prompted by the FBI's pressure, Internal Affairs rolled out new training for officers on bias, de-escalation, and respectful communication. Every secondary screening now required written justification, monitored for racial patterns. Data was tracked and shared with a civilian oversight committee. If disparities emerged, internal reviews followed. Dana Russo led the reform with urgency. She knew this wasn't just about one bad officer, it was about changing the system. Sergeant Cruz, who had testified honestly, was asked to become a liaison between security staff and leadership. Russo told him, "We need people who won't ignore bad behavior." Though once quiet, Cruz accepted the role, committed to helping build a better, fairer airport environment. Tiana Levin, the kind passenger who stepped in touch with Maya. Their simple exchange became a friendship. Tiana later invited Maya to speak at a women's leadership event. There, Maya shared her story, how she rose in the FBI, and how standing up to prejudice had come with risks, but also purpose. When asked, "Aren't you afraid of backlash?" she replied, "Silence has its own consequences. If we don't speak up, we allow injustice to win. Breathe. We need to break the cycle." The story even made it into a law classroom at Emory University, where a professor used it as a real-life case study. Students were asked to analyze the ethical and legal impact of Officer Kyle Mercer's actions and how institutional policies could prevent similar incidents. Maya joined a panel discussion with the students, hoping to inspire future legal minds to uphold equality under the law. The session sparked debate. Could the FBI have charged him? Was Kyle's firing too harsh or not harsh enough? Maya explained that internal termination was one step, but civil or criminal charges for discrimination required legal proof of intent. While the district attorney's review continued, her main message was clear: strong policies and oversight are crucial to stop bias from becoming systemic harm. Meanwhile, Kyle struggled with the fallout. He received a letter from the DA's office. They were investigating possible civil rights violations. His lawyer advised him to consider a plea deal, but Kyle stayed defensive, refusing to admit fault or apologize. He blamed everyone else, especially Maya, for what he called his ruined life. Friends urged him to take responsibility, but pride got in the way. Eventually, while criminal intent was hard to prove, a civil lawsuit was filed against Kyle in the airport. The airport settled quietly. Kyle, however, was held personally liable for some damages. He lost his home and moved to a cheaper apartment. Angry and bitter, he never understood how his behavior had harmed others. Maya, however, knew this wasn't just about one officer. It was about power and prejudice across institutions. Her courage forced accountability. Even a small act like standing up for herself had a ripple effect. In the following months, Maya was invited to speak at events on racial profiling and reform. She shared her story to highlight how a routine airport trip turned into a moment of justice and reflection. While media attention faded, her impact lasted. At the airport, people no longer mentioned Kyle by name, but they remembered the lesson: do your job, but do it right. Treat people with respect. Hartsfield-Jackson's policy reforms became a model for other airports. For Maya, life moved on. She rose in the FBI, trained new agents, and promoted empathy as an essential tool. And in quiet moments, she felt proud knowing her decision to speak up helped protect many others. In time, people may forget the exact details of that day, but they'll remember the message: no badge makes you untouchable. Real change begins when someone speaks up. From this story, we learn that strength, dignity, and courage can challenge even the most entrenched systems. Racism isn't just about individual actions, it's about the silence that allows it to continue. If I were the person in this story, I wouldn't stop here. I'd keep speaking out, pushing for reform from within, and sharing my experience to empower others. Will racism end by 2030? Maybe not. But the more people who stand up and refuse to accept injustice, the closer we'll get to that day. Note: this story is entirely fictional and created for the purpose of raising awareness. It highlights issues of responsibility, justice, and the importance of treating everyone with respect and dignity. We firmly oppose violence, prejudice, and injustice in all forms. Viewer discretion is advised.